I've always been a student of the game. When guys were getting done in the workouts or leaving home after practice, I found myself just going back in and watching the film of continuing to prepare myself to get better.
He craved to learn the game. That meant a lot to him. So my first recollection of him was, man, he may end up being a great coach.
I think that coaching instinct always been like embedded in him, but he just didn't know it. You know, sometimes we do what we feel like we want to do, but you really don't know what your true calling is.
You know, his mind, his dream was to play for the Auburn Tigers. That's hard, man, when you feel, you know, hear your kids say a big-time school like that.
My high school was orange and blue, my middle school was orange and blue in Troy, so I grew up an Auburn fan, and obviously seeing Auburn on TV, really in the 04 season when they had the undefeated season, and the brotherhood stood out to me, guys walking out the tunnel, arm's length, and that's when it started to get serious to me about what I'm gonna do next with football and just wanted to be a part of something special.
He loved football to his bone.
Oh God, he loved it.
He loved it. He loved football. And I'm glad, you know, when you do stuff that you love, you put everything in it.
When we came in and took over in 2009, I was looking for leaders. And Zac was one of those guys that immediately, it dawned on me, now this guy could be great for me in the locker room.
After meeting him, I was like, that guy's gonna be a coach one day. He was an extension of us on the field. He knew what to do inside and out, and he was a guy that didn't just want to know what he was supposed to do. He wanted to know what every level of the defense was supposed to do.
Even though he was only halfway through his career, I saw that there was this tremendous upside with him, not only as a leader, but his accountability with other players. He was always questioning and asking things from a coach's perspective that would make him better as a player.
He didn't mind studying the game. You know, he was somebody that, you know, I used to call him my cheat sheet. You know, I come home, hey Zac, you know, they in this defense, this and that, like, you know, he would spit it right out. Like, okay, that was my study session for the day.
A lot of guys was probably way more talented than I was, but they knew that everybody can count on me on getting them lined up or getting into the right checks. My teammates would tell you that I didn't mind sacrificing my body and just being violent at the point of contact.
He would always step up and hit you. The nature of his position, he was literally hitting somebody, you know, on most plays. And those are the ones that I worry more about because they're putting themselves more in harm's way.
Waking up a normal game day, just trying to get myself prepared for another SEC West opponent. But it just felt off for me for whatever reason. It's late in the first quarter. They hand the ball off to Rodney Scott. I go in to finish the play. Antonio Coleman is coming from the other side. And the thing in football, you never tackle with your head down. And for that moment, obviously Rodney is starting to fall. I don't see him. He don't see me. And the crown of my helmet goes into his shoulder pad, and I don't move.
I was on sideline watching the game, and initially it looked like a normal hit, you know, and I'm just like, why is Zac not getting up? You know, like, get up, Zac, like, what you doing?
You could have heard a pin drop in the stadium. It was completely quiet.
Well, Gene Chizik out there on the field in a hurry, along with the medical staff.
Zac was not really responding to us. I'm thinking that we're going to put him on the board and tube him because we didn't think he was breathing at that time. And by the time EMS got out to us, he was whispering.
The voice that I remember is just Dr. Gullett. Just hearing Doc just talking to me the whole time. And he just saying, can you try to lift an arm? Can you try to lift a finger or something? And I tried to do it and it worked.
There's a thumbs up we were hoping to see.
That's when all the sensation was starting to come back.
By the time we got him in the ambulance and secured and really about to head to the hospital, everything was back working again, thank goodness.
That's a shot of Zac Etheridge being wheeled into an ambulance after a head-on collision with one of his own teammates. And as soon as we get an update, we will pass it along.
By the time I get to the hospital, I'd say put me in a room so I can watch my teammates play.
Zac was a guy that everybody respected, so that there was a concern for somebody that everybody cared about. They've just seen one of their brothers that happened to, but then getting guys ready to go back and play. And that's just such a fine line to walk right there.
It was kind of mixed emotions, just like, you know, you want to finish the game and, you know, you want to win, but at the same time, you like, you know, what's going on with my friend?
They're shaken. And I remember having to call them together, and I remember having to talk to them, and I remember I needed to be the calming voice, even though I wasn't that calm about it myself. And I just remember the players reacting really, really well, and I remember kind of the mantra that was circulating the sideline was, we ain't losing this game. We're winning this game for our guy. We're winning this game for Zac.
One of the things that I do remember is seeing Darren Bates, who played alongside me, was come down and hit the running back, physical and violent, the way he knew I would play. And as soon as he get up, he holds up the number 4. And Walt McFadden get an interception and tiptoeing and then take it back for a touchdown and hold up the 4s as he goes.
Guys are doing that because of how much they respect it, how much they loved it. And that's a part that I think so many people don't get about this game, that the bond between the people who go through it together. And that's part of what makes this game so great.
It just felt surreal just watching the love and the passion that those guys played with, because that just led back to what we was building throughout the season, from the chemistry, the brotherhood, and one of the reasons why I came to Auburn. And just seeing that put a smile on my face in the hospital, and just that moment I knew that I had to get back to something special.
The thing about Zac is he was always determined to get back. He was just relentless that this wasn't going to stop him. The determination was made that we needed to go to Birmingham to see Dr. Swade. The injury was complex. It was a C2 ligament tear and a C5 fracture.
Dr. Swade come in after the reading, and I looked Doc in his eyes, before you say anything, I'm playing football again. Okay, option 1, we can do a bone fusion. We'll put you in a halo. You have to get screws in your head. Okay, Doc, you can stop there. That's not happening. You know what I mean? I'm not putting screws in my head. I'm not doing that. And then he said, now, the other part requires a lot of discipline to allow you to even give yourself a chance of playing football. And at that point, I knew I was choosing option B, regardless of whatever it came with it. And we can put you in a brace that you have to wear 24/7.
The way that he chose to attack it was to wear that brace for seemingly forever. You don't think about how tough it is when you can't move your chin. So everything you do, you got to move it up to your eyeballs, and that was tough. You know, I think he got frustrated at times with his parents and me, because we were kind of more concerned with Zac, what are you going to look like when you're 30 years old, as opposed to Zac, can you play football, you know, right here, right now, or next year.
How you feeling, Zac?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm blessed to be able to walk again. I'm just excited that I got a chance to see the guys again today too.
When he first came back into campus, we brought him into a team meeting, and I made a big deal out of a surprise guest, and it was him. And it was just so great, not just for him, to be able to get back to some sense of normalcy. It was great for the players to see him back, for the players to have him around.
You know, they weren't gonna let him put himself in a position to injure himself while he was healing.
It's hard, something like that, being injured like that, and the severity of it. Just being his friend is something that I just wanted to do for him, you know, because it wasn't, you know, it never is about, you know, just one person, but I wanted him to know that, hey, I got you, you know, we here.
As it's starting to get later in the process, you starting to like, I'm okay, and you starting to take the brace off, and those guys held me accountable every day, like, no, put it back on, what are you doing?
He was itching and you know, and trying to do everything he could, you know, as fast as he could, because believe it or not, he knew that he was going to play again, and he wanted to play the whole time. And that just kind of blew my mind, because I was just like, man, if that happened to me, I don't even know if my mind would be there.
My only goal was to make sure I'm out there the next year. That motivated me the entire time of knowing that I had a chance. I truly want to be a part of something that I love, and I want to finish something that I started. As it's starting to get closer to the season, I'm still anxious of like when I'm going to get cleared,
Getting cleared from a C-spine injury is kind of not an exact science at all. Basically, yes, you're healed, we think you're solid, but there's always risk.
And right before, We get ready for fall camp. Dr. Swade cleared me my last trip to Birmingham, and then he called later on that week and he uncleared me.
He said, I love you like a son. He said, you can make just as much money coaching as you can playing football. He said, but I won't stand in your way.
If you can go get a second opinion somewhere else and they clear you from everything that we've done throughout the entire process, then I'll allow you to play. And I wasn't hearing no.
My surgeon in Dallas happens to be the best spine guy in the NFL who works for the Dallas Cowboys. And he had actually done back surgery, spine surgery on me. So we flew him out to Dallas and he cleared him.
He looked my dad in his eye, he said, if it was my son, I would let him play again. At that moment, I didn't hear anything else. I was just smiling from ear to ear. As soon as I got back from Dallas, I got ready and I went straight to practice.
I remember weaning him into practices with, we had a progression that we had to, move him forward with. And I just remember thinking, man, this we really need to be careful with this. And, step by step, day by day, week by week, he didn't flinch.
It was all over then. It was time to go back to work. And later I know was that said, I'm finna get in past, Dad. And I said, well, handle your business. And just, I always say your prayer first.
I called 37 right here. The first time we got in pass, the first thing I did was go hit somebody.
I remember watching him the entire play and thinking, God, please let him be okay.
Yes, sir!
And everybody got up and everybody was good. And it was like, oh, thank you.
Like I just went through my head in there just to see if I was okay. And at that moment, the confidence and going to go hit and being violent and tackling was starting to gain throughout that time, and I was ready to go.
Did you or did you not hit it? Huh? Did you hit it?
I called him on the ground.
Oh, you got it. Come back.
It was like a big gust of wind got behind everybody and lifted us all up, and away we went.
They seen their dedication that Zac had. For them to just look at him, I think that gave them a little more self-confidence, a little bit more motivation.
And what's amazing about that is had he chosen not to play, he would have missed a national championship opportunity in which, by the way, he was a huge part of the national championship win. And man, it's just how much he loved the game.
That was one of the driving factors throughout their entire process of getting back on the field. I would say that it was very well worth the pain, the struggle, the adversity, everything through that moment was well worth it, and I can call myself a champion for a lifetime. A lot of time as a player, you remember how people treat you more than anything. Watching Coach Roof leadership style, just seeing that he truly cared about us as people more than just a football player. His impact to be able to reach every last one of us was special, and he's one of the reasons that I'm in this profession now, because he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, and I followed him to Penn State.
I knew I wanted him on our team. Luckily Billy O'Brien had a spot for him, and that was great because, before I could get questions or statements out of my mouth, he could finish them. And then when I left to go to Georgia Tech, he went with us there as well.
Coach Roof knew that I knew his system, and the knowledge that I did have, I would be an asset to him as far as getting the information to the players, being able to mesh with those guys, and just be an extension of him.
Not only what he would provide from a schematic standpoint or a work standpoint, but the perspective that he could provide after what he had gone through to pour into other young men.
Once I left Coach Roof, I was at Western Carolina for 2 seasons. Then I left Western and had an opportunity to go down to Lafayette with Billy Napier. And then I had an opportunity to go to the University of Houston with Dana Holgorsen for 2 seasons. And it kind of led that path of being in a position to stand on what I truly believe is just understanding your role, understanding the relationships, that you leave an impact that's forever lasting. throughout that time, I was working to get back to a place like my alma mater and being able to serve and be able to help produce student athletes and be able to share my experiences with them.
What a fitting story, right? He jumps into coaching. 10 years earlier, I thought, man, this guy would be a great coach. And 10 years later, he's made his way up the coaching ladder quick. What an honor for him to be able to come back to his alma mater and do it.
He's got sweat equity in that place. I know there's a tremendous sense of pride about that program because, again, he's a part owner in it.
It's like having one of your children come back home. It's part of what makes Auburn special, frankly. As Coach says all the time, we're trying to create Auburn men and women, and Zac is an Auburn man.
For him to come back and coach for his alma mater, it means the world to him. It means a whole lot.
Once it got out, my phone just didn't stop ringing. I was getting ready to get on a plane to fly back to Atlanta to see my daughter and share the moment with her, and to be able to show her everything about Auburn and building your legacy, because that moment, and you just sit back and you think about those team meetings of hearing Coach Cheer say, this is gonna be a place that you're gonna someday bring your kids back to see. During that time and you sit in those seats as a 21-year-old, you don't think about that.
She loved her dad.
Dad is good.
And she's a diehard daddy girl.
Daddy football, she said, daddy football, daddy football. Daddy juice, like Gatorade, she said, daddy's juice.
Yeah, daddy juice.
That was kind of daddy's juice,
Yeah.
daddy Gatorade.
She real special to her dad, man. It means a lot to him to be back closer to her, too.
Oh, yeah.
Now having that opportunity to bring her into the facilities, come in my office, for her to walk around the building and say, hey, there's Daddy, there's number 4, hey Daddy, this is your school. Her see the brick, you know, at the end of Tiger Walk with her last name on it, and it just made me feel like I've accomplished everything from, you know, just that legacy standpoint of what I talk to my players about. And along the journey, just know that it's gonna be adversity. It's gonna be things that you don't like. It's gonna be dark moments that you gotta continue to push through, because there's always gonna be a light on the other side of the tunnel. And every day that they walk into the building, take advantage of all the resources that you have at Auburn, because it truly prepares you for life after football. Don't just go through to say I played football at Auburn. Get your degree and leave a legacy for something that's bigger than yourself, but being able to come back here one day and show your kids what you have built. And I share that with them every day. And some get it, some don't, some are hard-headed like I was, but they starting to see that, okay, Coach E is passionate about this university, he's passionate about his legacy, but he's more passionate about making sure that we're able to achieve everything that he's already achieved, and making sure that we have a life after football and be able to go on to the next level, whether it's NFL or whether it's professional, that they be able to look back and say it's a university they're proud of.